And it looks like the second part of the base is up and running, just a lot of supports to take care of, and we got those boots going on too. Now that there is a ton of supports. I'm not going to go through the whole cleaning process. If you want to see that, you could check out the first video. I don't want to bore you with that. So I'm just going to get this off the plate and start cleaning it up. I just noticed the print failed right there, so I'm debating to toss this or should I try to fix that? Well, I printed a new one up, so let's see how this one is.
This one came out a lot better. There is still a little bit of rippling on top, but that's a lot easier to take care of. We'll just sand that down and do what we have to do. The next thing up we have to do is this ring. It's going to be printed in clear. I know there's a lot of supports and it's going to leave marks, but that's no big deal. We'll sand that down smoothly. This is going to get all frosted anyhow because we don't want the LEDs showing through the back. So let me get on printing this. This is going to be on the M5S and in clear resin, any cubic standard. For some reason, Bandicam didn't record everything I did here. I did get her head on the build plate, also her thighs and her arms. I did everything the same way as you've seen in the first video, hollowing it out, adding the holes, adding the supports. I got everything on the build plate here. I was ready to slice it up, but the machine was telling me something was not right. So I just had to go in and move everything around a little bit. This way nothing was hanging over the edge and I could print these up. What I'm going to show you next is I don't like to have supports on important pieces. So I'm going to show you what I do there. What I meant about important pieces was like her tattoos. A lot of these supports ended up on the edging of the tattoo where it really wasn't necessary. So I just took those and adjusted them and moved them down a bit to still hold up her chin. If they're on the tattoo, then I'm gonna have to take sandpaper or I'm gonna have to use one of the sanding tools I have to sand those little nubs down, and that could ruin the tattoo. I'd rather have it on a smooth surface where it's easy to get rid of those. Like you see, these are on the edges. I'm just moving those underneath to hold the chin up. There's no red here, so they're probably not even necessary. I think everything would be good. So all I did was go around the whole model and move things around. You're able to do this in Chitubox. If you see on the right-hand side, the fourth icon is lit up, and that's the one that lets you move things around. The one with the minus sign, of course, lets you delete things. You turn them red, hit the delete key, and the one with the plus sign lets you add things. I'm just, as you can see here, moving things off the edges. This way, none of those tattoos get ruined. So now let's get back into working on the model. And here we go. We have a second base. The first one was really messed up. This one only has a few ripples. It's nice and neat on the outside, on the inside, so it's much better than the first one. Just doing a little test fit here. This is how it's going to go. We're going to have LED lights on the inside, and we're going to have to glue this down right here. There's a little wobble to it, so I'm going to have to put something heavy on there. I think I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy on this to hold it all together. I tried to put all the supports towards the back here. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of cleanup, and we're going to try this little Dspiae thing here. I hope I said that right. This is the Dspiae Pen Sander. It's rechargeable. It's a pretty cool little tool. It's got a nice color to it, and when you pull it off, this thing is tight. You really got to pull the top off of here, and you can see the little reciprocating piece at the top. It's not oscillating. It does go forward and backwards. It has a on-off button there. The on-off button, you can do 3 modes: slow, medium, and fast. And when you turn it on, you got to do it pretty quick. You hit slow, medium, and then fast. You also get this box with all these little different heads on here, and also a charging cable. And the sandpaper for these are all stick-on. They come in these little sheets. They're cut out into the sizes you need, and it comes in a whole bunch of different grades: 180, 240. I think it's all the way up to 1200. There's your 800, and 1000 is your top one. So you get a whole bunch of different grits to use and all the shapes you need. The first head I'm going to use is a little pointy guy. I put the sandpaper on there, and there's only one way this can go on, so you have to seat it down, and you can see I turned it on. It's on the low, and then click it again and again, and it'll go to medium and high, and then the last click is off. This is my first run with it. I'm trying to take down all those little nubs. Right now, it's doing a very decent job with it. It's not that powerful on low. It is pretty powerful on high, but what you have to watch out for is pushing down on this. If you put too much pressure, the motor is not that strong, and it will either slow down or stop on you. So this is going to be for more fine and delicate, intricate sanding rather than your overall have-at-it sanding. There's just a lot of nubs on here, and I have to do the top. So I'm going over to my Mr. G2 Polisher Pro 3, and this will knock everything out quickly. Now that I have the rim pretty much done, I'm going back in with the polisher and taking care of all those nubs on the face of the round. The important thing is I have that other little mini sander from Dspiae, and that's going to get into all those little holes because I have a lot of support marks in there. The place I really don't have to worry about is that inner circle because we're going to put LED lights around that. I'm not going to paint that, and then we're going to have the clear insert in there, and that's going to hide everything on the inside, and we'll have our light shining through. Now to see if I got things smooth, I just take a paper towel with alcohol to wipe off all this dust. And yes, I should be wearing gloves, and I'm not. I know. I'm a bad boy sometimes. But this is all I'm doing. I'm wiping it down. This way we could see what we got to go through and if we have some more cleanup to do. Everything was looking pretty good, so all I did was I took the 180 grit off of the machine and I put on 1000 grit and I started smoothing all that down to get rid of all the scratch marks. Now this is where the Dspiae is going to come in handy for all of these little openings where we got to have the light coming through. There are a lot of support marks in here. This little guy I could keep on low or medium and get inside each one of these so easily, and it takes it down nice and quick without a lot of pressure. Remember, you put pressure on this thing, you're going to stop it, and the little pen is probably going to break after a while if you put too much pressure. Just let the pen do what it's got to do, figure out what speed you need it on. Like this, I figured medium was the best because it was taking it down and not taking too much material off, and I could go from hole to hole and just clean everything up. The top of our base had some ripples in it, so I just used the G2 Pro Polisher 3, which is the boring part, on top, and then I took some 1000 grit sandpaper and I started smoothing all that out to get the smoothest finish I could get on the top of the base. Next was basic cleanup on the boots. I have support marks on the toes, and then I got some deviations in the print back here. No clue what that was, but Bondo's going to fill that in, make sure those are good, and they'll look nice once done. This is one part I don't like. You could see at the bottom of the boot there, the designer made it so the peg kind of sticks out. The foot is in there perfect, the heel is down, but that thing sticks up. So I'm going to do something stupid, and this is where I'm going to really mess things up. So here's my smart decision. What I'm going to do is I decided that I'm going to cut the peg off the foot to try to make it fit better. This, in theory, is a good idea. Just cut it down, make it fit, and all will be good. But the only problem with this is after I do cut it, I'm going to have to cut some more. And even with my masterful cutting, it's still sticking out and you can see it. So I went in and I cut some more, made it flush, and this was a good idea. I would have just had to fill it in with some epoxy sculpt or maybe a piece of styrene, but this wasn't working out too well either. So after all that masterful sanding and all that good stuff, yeah, I broke the piece. I could probably just put it back together, glue it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to reprint this part, and I'm going to leave the whole peg on there this time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some black 4.0 since the whole base is black, paint it in that, and it should create a nice dark shadow. And we're on to the last couple steps of finishing up the top of this base. Well, not finishing it up, but prepping it. I'm gonna go with the Bondo and fill in all the little pinholes I have, and there are a couple gouges, and those came from when I was pulling off the supports. I pulled too hard, and they were set in there really good, and I made a pretty deep hole. So all I'm doing here is I'm gonna put this Bondo in the spots it needs to be, and then once the Bondo is dried up, we're gonna sand this down. Bondo was all dried up in about a half an hour, 40 minutes. Took my little Mr. G tool here and polished it out and got everything nice and smooth. And as always, the last thing I did was get some primer on there. I used Mr. Surfacer 1000 again. You can see some ripples in there, but when the black is in there, those should go away. Of course, there's dust in here because I still suck and I don't have a spray booth. We'll get one of those soon. See you in the next one, guys.